Seriously? My second commentary video of the year involves another bloody VTuber, and it's a VTuber who's hot? Seriously, what the hell is going on here? And how the hell has this girl completely fucked her entire career with all of this? Just on the off chance you've not been able to figure out who I'm talking about because you either can't read or couldn't tell from the thumbnail, this video is about one of the most popular VTubers, Cinder. And what has come out in regards to Cinder recently? Jesus fuck. As of writing the script, she's not come out with a response in regards to everything, but this video won't get uploaded until after she makes one. However, with what is currently available, it doesn't exactly paint her in a great light. Tectone and Athoma made videos about this, which I'll leave in the description for you guys to check out, but I want to give my thoughts by going through each and every one side with some correlating with each other. Also, in regards to Tectone, he did actually reach out to Cinder, urging her to make a response to all of this, which will be needed as of right now, we only have one side. Granted, others have come out about it from their experience with her, but I have to agree with Tectone how it's not entirely fair to throw Cinder to the wolves without her side. Before this video, which I think is going to be one of my longer videos, I'm going to break this down into chapters. Something I've actually never done before with one of these type of videos, but it just shows how fucked all of this seems. Now, I have Google Docs from some of the people who've spoken about their experience with her, which we will get into in due time. But for now, let's quickly break down how we even fucking got here to begin with. And I'll follow the timeline Tectone gave in this tweet of his. But first... So everything I think started from this tweet from Cinder in regards to someone named Redacted, who was also her manager. I'll touch up more on this bit when we get the vamp, but I think this is what started everything. Cinder also states that she'll be making a larger response when she's able to, which is something a lot of people are waiting for, hence why it's taken so long for this video to come out. Because I also want to be fair to Cinder and have her side spoken. I'm still going to continue with everything else I have for this video, but this is where I think everything started, which then resulted in the release of these 4 documents by Rain, Nano, Bao, and Spite, which was highlighted by Jean. And from what we are about to witness based on this tweet alone, yeah, this situation is so fucked. Again, I will be touching the documents on everyone's side as they come in order from how Tectone stacked it. I've even had to arrange my files separately for each chapter, which again is something I've never done before in my life. But with one of the most fucked up situations to, I think, ever hit the VTubing community, I felt like this would have to be the one time where I decided to change the setup. The closest I've ever gotten to doing something like that would either be my 15th Suzilu update video, the video of Prince of Fallen doxing Tipster, my hour-and-a-half long video on Einars, or my video involving Illuminati, which has over 31,000 views. And people have also brought up how this could seriously damage her relationship with GamerSubs, which she is a partial owner of, and potentially get her removed from it. I didn't really have much in regards to this chapter, as it's kind of meant to act more like a prologue as to what's to come. So, now that that's out of the way, let's start with the first chapter of this apocalyptic nightmare of a situation. While writing the script, I actually have Tectone's 1 hour 40-minute video playing, and I actually heard him refer to Nano as one of the best riggers in the VTuber sphere. So for her to come out with everything had to have been extremely hard. But I think it'd probably have felt worse for Nano to have to suppress it all and keep it to herself. So letting it all out probably felt quite relieving. And the support from other creators like Yuria, Sku-chan, Sugi, and even Shy Lily must have felt extremely powerful and comforting. Because, as I've stated, this entire situation is completely fucked up. So let's go through Nano's document and her experience with Cinder, as well as Redacted, who she calls Red for short, which we'll probably do as well. And I also want to say that I'll not only leave this documented in the description, but the others that Tectone brought up as well as an extra. And Nano brings up how English isn't her first language, as well as how she believed everything Red did was consented by Cinder. So the first segment of the document is labeled Slandering Other Creators, where she provides screenshots as well as stating they spoke shit about Bao, who we'll be getting to later. But in the screenshots, Red claims Bao has been getting on their nerves and that she hijacked their YouTube editor, as well as picking up artists that they work with. Straight off the bat, I have to ask the major question. Where the fuck did it state that these people are only allowed to work with you? These people make money through commissions and aren't excluded from taking them from multiple people. So the fact that you think otherwise is quite head-scratching and leaves me trying to put something here to respond to that, but have no real way of actually wording it. Oh, and then Red states that he and Cinder still have their YouTube editor and that he still works for them, but that he now has to dedicate time for both Cinder and Bao. Is there a rule against working for multiple people? Because if not, then kindly shut the fuck up and pull your head out of your ass. This just comes off as them sounding almost entitled and that anyone who works for them isn't allowed to do any work for anyone else. If you cared so much, why didn't you just fully hire the guy and make a contract with them to prevent this from happening? Then in the next screenshot, Red states that Cinder wouldn't be Cinder without Nano. I'm not entirely sure if that's true or not, but let's just gloss over that bit for now, even though I think that's bollocks. He also then begins claiming that Bao made original songs which flopped that had MVs made by her editor, who then met them at TwitchCon stating he'd love to work with them. They get him to squeeze and work with their Boss Rush MV, which ends up blowing and working with Bao. Then he goes on to claim that Bao found out about the Boss Rush MV, got pissed off, forced the editor to cancel the next project with Cinder and make a statement that he'll only be working with Bao from now on. Then he claims that Bao's been barking up the tree for one of the L2D animators, no clue what the fuck that even is, I'll Google it later, and claims that Bao has a way of guilt-tripping people into getting her way. Now, as I said, Bao made a Google document with her side of things, so let's keep this on the back burner for right now. However, unless either Red or Cinder has proof of this, then this is a pretty fucked up thing to do. If you watch any of my commentary videos, I always provide proof and receipts for the things I claim. And there have even been times where, although rarely, I got something wrong and have had to make a correction. But to make these accusations against Bao without any proof is just straight up scummy. Nana then straight up brings up how Red manipulated her into cancelling on Bao, as Bao has so many connections and then she'll find someone super fast. The fucked up reason even is that? Especially with you knowing that Nano is already halfway through creating the commissions for Bao. Nano doesn't work exclusively for you. She has her own career and shit to do with commissions, and you don't get to just tell her to pull the plug on that and focus on you and Cinder. And that's just before you get to the segment titled Exclusivity and Blacklisting Other Creators, where they wanted to enter an exclusivity contract without paying her for one, and you know what, just read it yourselves. I can't even do it without wanting to introduce a metal mallet to my skull. But from the screenshot provided, Red basically wants Nana to not only not take any new model clients, but also to no longer make new models or outfits for blank again, and then goes on to state how new nano babies mean nano models lose their value the more they are made. At least Red can say she can still work on existing nano babies, so there's that at least. He also then goes on to state that he can pay Blank, who later gets revealed to be Komori, for her, preceded by telling Nano to no longer work with the three Blanketeers, aka Bao, Cottontail, and No Fucking Clue, and then whatever the fuck this is meant to mean. And if you did read this, then you'll know that Nano states how this fucked with her head, as she legitimately believed the more of her models were made for other creators, the less value they'd have. Let's be real here, that's just bullshit. It wouldn't devalue your work. If anything, it'd highlight it, showcasing just how fucking talented and amazing your work truly is. From these two screenshots, it sounds like they are already aware of that fact and want to hog you all to themselves. But at least Nana was able to tell that the deal didn't truly sit right with her and backed out of it. Smart. And then Red brings up Nano's work with Shy Lily, everyone's favourite silly orca girl who we all want to swim with, claiming how she's been acting weird towards Cinder and how Lily has been backing out of scheduled collabs at the last minute, ghosting her, and not even calling her by her name when she raided Lily's livestream one time, which Nano provides a link for.
Die! 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 Oh, hello? Ignore what you just saw! Okay. Ooh! Oh my goodness! Hello! Oh! Hello, Raiders! Hello, hello! I am playing, Berserker. It's called The Last Berserker Kazan. We were sponsored, but the game was really fun, so I just kept playing for like a million more hours. Hello, everyone! Hello! The Pyropop raid! Hello, Pyropops! What did you guys do? I am low-key addicted. I usually... Okay, so most people know me for my gacha addiction, but I really like Souls-like games and similar mechanically challenged games. This game feels like a really cool... Oh, Cobblemon. Oh, shit. I wanna play Cobblemon too. That's sick. What does rating mean? Okay, so usually... It's... Have you been on Twitch for a while? It used to be hosting. Well, it isn't really hosting. Like, rating is basically throwing someone's community into someone else's chat. You know? It used to be the host feature back in the days, except when hosting, you kind of were more or less forced offline. But when raiding, you can technically stay online and go back online, but people just use it as the host feature, as the replacement for the host feature that was discontinued.
So yeah, Cinder raided her live stream and Lily didn't call her out by name. She did, however, acknowledge the Pyropups, which is actually how she acknowledges you. Tectone brought up how he raided her once, and instead of calling him out by name, called out his fanbase. It's just how she does it. So Red claiming Lily ignored Cinder's raid when she spent a little over a minute thanking her for said raid is just straight up bollocks, as the clip showed. Red then inquires if Nano has only been working Cinder and Blank's models and inquires who's working on Lily's rigging while apologizes for all the questions. Sure you are, mate. Red then comes out saying how they need to stay competitive while simultaneously saying they shouldn't have to be, which Nano then says to not get too competitive as it can be bad, and then Red throws shit at Lily again. And now we get to the convos with Cinder herself. And this is where my own personal thoughts come into this, but I'll save that for a separate chapter later. But after reading this screenshot, I think we can deduce that Blank's real name is Spite when reading. Anywho, Cinder says that she gets compared to Spite a lot, and then goes in for what feels like a guilt trip maneuver by saying she feels like Nano doesn't feel okay working with her anymore, which I'm pretty sure she didn't say. Although given shit now... yeah. Credit where credit is due though, with Cinder seeing it from Nana's point of view. However, her focus on people's opinions and comparing her to Spite really shouldn't matter, and she should just do her own thing and enjoy herself. However, despite it looking like Cinder is looking out for her and everything seeming hunky-dory, is actually not true at all, which Nano points out while also stating that this wasn't even about her in the first place, and goes on to state that their actions actually cost her work involving both new and returning clients. And this is only the halfway point of Nano's Google Doc. There's still a whole 8 other pages to go. Nano then talks to Cinder again in regards to this line Red says, which reads, "Not to discredit your work, but everything you work on is the top of the line incredible. But when everyone's a Nano baby, it feels less special to be one, if that makes sense." Kind of been getting the same feeling from gamer subs too. Leading to Cinder responding, stating that she gets what he means and that at the end of the day, it's just business. Okay, forget the mallet, it was a nail gun. Nano even calls what Cinder's doing here in a Google Doc manipulative, which kinda is, honestly. And going on to say that it feels special with the works done by Nano may have a level of sincerity behind it, but then saying, "Let me know if you don't have time for me to be an exclusive Nano baby anymore," completely flips it and makes the read entirely differently. Instead of it sounding like a compliment and praise, it now speaks as a form of guilt tripping in order to get your way. And all I can say to that is grow the fuck up! You're not the only person on Nano's client list. She has other people she does work for which she enjoys doing. If she's not able to squeeze in time for your stuff, then that's that. It's just business. Which she also brings to Red, stating that it's unfair of her to stop other models so that she can do more for Cinder, and that she won't have Cinder as her only client. And good on her for standing her ground there. Red then tries backpedaling from the looks of it by stating, "Oh, we didn't mean you could only work with us," even though earlier screenshots kinda tell otherwise, with Nana then saying that every model she does is unique, which Red does at least admit to and states are incredible. However, Nano also addresses that they are, once again, trying to normalize their behavior by sabotaging other creators. And I'm just gonna leave these 3 up at the same time for you to read. I feel like it's easier for you guys, as there is still other things in this doc to cover, as well as other segments of the video I need to deal with. In fact, you can even pause the video to read and then resume afterwards. However, I do want to highlight this line said by Red by saying he wasn't trying to make Nano not work on someone else's model, despite the fact that the previous screenshots say otherwise. The final segment of the Google Doc is titled Damage Control, with the description here being pretty self-explanatory, and I think the screenshots to follow will do exactly that. Funny, Cinder made her entire career doing shit online, and yet she seemed to have forgotten that people can take screenshots of conversations if she ever did, well, what she did. Again, we get more backpedaling from Red in regards to Nano's work, and then Red states that they'll wait and see if Blank, who we can assume is Bao, given how small the box is, will ask for a model by Nano, and then hopes Blank, who is probably Spite, finds someone else. And as you can see here, it just gets worse. Because Red's only real source for any of this, like Nano stated, is Cinder. Blank, who we can assume is Spite with context going forward through the last couple screenshots, probably never felt such competition for her. Nor did she see competition. Competition wasn't even on her mind. Red even brings up how Cinder got to where she is on her own merits, and states Spite will watch and snatch to make work for her, and even brings up how Spite unfollowed Cinder while stealing elements from Cinder's model to add to her own. Even brings up how she used to call herself a Hellhound, then changed it to Cerberus after Cinder surpassed her. I think Cerberpups might be what she calls her fans did. As well as saying Spite stated she didn't steal anything and that her character is all her. Which it is, and was. You ever heard of this thing called coincidence? I suggest you look it up, as I don't think you've heard of it before. I'd like to highlight the irony of expecting to be entitled to recognition for her own efforts and size when her own active efforts are tied to sabotaging this very same VTuber. Also feeling entitled and insisting to be recognized by someone else is odd. After reading this and looking at the screenshots, this makes Cinder come off looking like a cutthroat bitch who simultaneously forgot what the fucking point of being a content creator was in the first place. And Red doesn't exactly help any either. Looking at every single screenshot just puts Cinder in such a bad light, and it could seriously cost her her Gamersubs partnership, which I think she was talking crap about in an earlier screenshot, which she is now a co-partner of. But as I said, this is just one person's story. There's still a fuck more to come. So now we come to a character named Rain, who interacted with Cinder back when she went by a different character named Tashi MP3 with a channel that made ASMR content. And looking back at this screenshot I took of Tashi's channel, not only was the last video uploaded to the channel last year, but it also has Cinder's YouTube channel linked to it. In fact, the two channels were even made on the same year. The Tashi MP3 channel was made March 11th, 2020, and the Cinder channel was made December 7th that same year. And Rain does state not only that the events in this document happened 4 to 5 years ago, but also before she even debuted as Cinder. He also addresses that he knows he'll probably get called a clout chaser for this, but reiterates that he wanted to corroborate Nano's Google Doc that Cinder isn't who people thought. Under the beginning, Rain states that Cinder had just started her Tashi MP3 account while he already had his own ASMR RP account with over 8,000 subscribers, leading to her messaging him wanting to work with him. And they did make a lot of content together, as well as talking every day to each other. And then things took a bit of a turn, and I think this is pretty apt. Rain says that Tashi began flirting with him while having a boyfriend, which they both knew, while shit-talking a BF to him, even calling Rain perfect boyfriend material. She also brings up how her boyfriend during that time bought a fleshlight and proceeded to show her him using it, calling it a great feeling. Let's deal with this bit first, shall we? Buying a fleshlight when you have a fucking girlfriend is just so fucking stupid. Like, that's just a waste of money, especially when you have a physical girlfriend there to do it to. If someone came up to me and asked, would I prefer this loyal, devoted girlfriend who will forever love me unconditionally and look after me to have a family with, or a toilet roll with a pair of rubber plastic lips strapped on top, I'd be picking the girlfriend every time, as it'd be the only correct answer. I also do want to point out that in this segment, Rain does mention that he wasn't exactly innocent during this, but he does at least acknowledge it and is honest about it. So he gets some credit there at least. Rain then states that after hearing all this, he no longer feels bad for Cinder's BF after he not only told Cinder about buying the fleshlight despite her telling him how hurt she felt and keeping it, to which Rain asked why he asked Cinder if she was okay with it after already buying the thing, as well as saying she needs to figure out what she really wants, leading to her saying she's an awful person who doesn't deserve what she and Rain have. First off, you both just sexed, and that's kinda about it. Second, you're cheating on your partner. And given everything else that's come out about you, this statement is pretty accurate. And Rain goes on to say that Cinder continued to string him along with proclamations of real love, while just using him to make herself feel better, which he stupidly believed to begin with. And that's something that hits too hard for me personally, with a girl I dated who I genuinely fell stupidly hard for, and she was doing the same thing to me. And what makes it worse is not only does a small part of me refuse to let me hate her, despite the fact I very much should, that same part still loves her. So I think it's not only my brain that's fucked, but my heart too. Yes, I'm aware I'm a fucking idiot, don't remind me. I tell myself that enough as it is. Rain goes on to say that this continued for several months, bringing up the matching of content and said screenshot. And no, I have no fucking clue what this video refers to. I looked on the Tashi MP3 channel all the way back to 4 years ago, and not a Scooby. Also, terribly sorry for this. However, I want to read a paragraph by Rain before he came to the final part of his doc. One reason I've felt it important to share these details in particular is because I never found out if Red got told about what happened, especially not in full lucidity. The primary reason I've held on to all of this for so long was an itching feeling that Red never fully knew, and it always felt like it would be unnecessary drama, so I left it alone. But now seems as good a time as any. Red, if you're reading this, I'm sorry for all that happened back then, I really am. But given the actions you two have taken together regarding other VTubers, I think you're a perfect match for each other regardless. The final segment of the doc, titled The End, talked about after she got done using him for her own sexual needs and how their conversation slowed down, brought up by her conversion to Cinder and the success of said character, at which time Rain had stopped making content, which he deduces is what led to her no longer talking with him much, as she can no longer ladder climb him. His words, not mine. He did tell her he felt about her how she didn't want to be as friend as Cinder but was fine using Tashi, to which he gave this piss poor excuse. I mean, I'm sorry, but it kinda is. What the fuck type of excuse even is that? Eventually she stopped using the account entirely and he never heard from her again. Despite Rain not exactly coming off as the completely innocent party in all this, at least he admits it. Rain also calls Cinder an opportunist wherever she can find a way to be, and who doesn't give a shit about what happens to the people she springboards off from. Again, his words, not mine. And keep in mind, this was all back in 2020, prior to becoming the hellhound people came to adore and love. But given the recent events... yeah, fuck me, this just fucking hurts. And I'm aware that this chapter wasn't very long, but that's because the Google Doc itself wasn't very long. And the next chapter of the story is going to be the same. Mainly because this doesn't involve a Google Doc. Like I said, this chapter isn't going to be all that long. In fact, it might even be shorter, as Vamp Peaches didn't make a Google Doc like the others did. But that doesn't mean Vamp doesn't get a say, as these two were very good close friends apparently. So she does deserve to have her voice heard. Plus, she dropped something major. In regards to the tweet Cinder made of how Redacted will no longer be her manager, Vamps responds to it by straight up calling out the fact that while playing Phasmophobia, Red was chatting away in the background before Cinder debuted, and that Cinder called him her boyfriend. Then when they met at TwitchCon, she called him her manager, despite the fact Vamps already knew who the fuck it was, and goes on to say that she now feels icky knowing that fact, and that Cinder will try and avoid accountability for hurting those she fucked over who she called her friends. But Vamps coming out with the fact that Red was Cinder's boyfriend caused quite a stir within the drama, with people like Orenda freaking the fuck out over the bombshell. People knew Red was Cinder's manager, but no one expected him to be her boyfriend too. Zoe caught wind of this and is stating that Cinder's throwing him under the bus in an attempt to save her own ass. And then Zoe made additional replies to her original tweets, and I don't think she knows how to do threads. But they do kind of sum things up from the looks of it. And in a rather brutal way too. One sec, babe, I need to accept this $1,000 from the chatters before I blow you in our Twitch mention. Is it not enough? Your greed is so strong that you feel the need to rule out competition. You're not competing, you're not even at the top. Not when you're only at the top because of others who've lifted you up there. You'd have all earned your place if you didn't so selfishly throw yours away. Cause really, It looks to me like there was more than enough money going around. It looked like you were making more than like 95% of indie VTubers. So why this intense obsession with crushing the competition? Greed. And I feel like this couldn't be any further from the truth given what we've already seen. Even before when she went by Tashi MP3. But not only that, she also doesn't want anyone taking away her chance to reaching the top despite already being there. Even picking on someone smaller than her. And from the looks of it, it doesn't seem to matter who Cinder has to crush to get there. Even her own manager slash boyfriend, which Jean also calls out. But this is Vamp's story. So let's get back to her. Reading this tweet in response to Bao's Google Doc, Vamp highlights this line, which is from Bao's doc, and is very much true. Success is nothing without having anyone there to support you, because then success literally means nothing. It's hollow, empty. If you can't share it with those closest to you, like your friends, then what's the fucking point? Take a look at creators like Shy Lily and Bebe. They too are successful in the industry. But they've not backstabbed and used others to get there. And even if they had used someone bigger, they thanked them for it and showed their gratitude. It's a little thing called respect. Vamp actually stated that very line from Bao's doc hit her very hard as she felt exactly that for 2 years because of the same person. Vamp then goes on to say that she knew Cinder 5 years ago when she still went by Tashi MP3 and that she stood by her like a true friend, even when the ASMR community dragged her for misusing their scripts. And that things changed when they met in Paris, where she then felt discarded and was ghosted by her. Now that just straight up sucks. And that's not a pleasant feeling. And this is coming from someone who still suffers from slight paranoia, which I then have to fight off, yet still lingers in the back of my mind. And for Vamp to feel so confused as to what she did wrong to deserve it is something she shouldn't have had to feel when it wasn't her fault. And turns out, it actually wasn't. It was Cinder showing her true colors, and then ended up making Vamp seeing it as a blessing in disguise of her getting left behind. And not only do our hearts go out to those Cinder hurt, but they go out to Vamp as well. She genuinely thought they were friends and treated it as a proper friendship. She actually cared about Cinder, and Cinder returned that kindness by kicking her to the curb the first chance she got. People who do that don't deserve to have caring friends like Vamp. If they can't respect the friendship, then they don't deserve it. End of. Plain and simple. And Vamp's reason for coming out with this are straight up legit, fair, and reasonable given what we've already seen. Pinning all the blame on her manager slash boyfriend is just a way for Cinder to shift any and all blame away from her and onto someone else. Vamp's need to express her story before Cinder's narrative can fully take root was very well played, and this tweet highlights many things that we can agree with. Holding the correct person accountable for their shitty actions to everyone they hurt, whether it be friends, artists, or an entire fucking community who would have bought that crap had no one else said anything first. How we are all people who help support each other and invest time, effort, and energy into these people, and deserve to be treated as such instead of as pawns in some twisted business operation damage control. Hey, I thought we dealt with that segment back with Nano. But this whole thing hit Vamps hard. In fact, she even went on to say that she'd rather have had Cinder say to her, "I can't gain anything from our friendship anymore, so I gotta drop you. Bye." And what makes it worse is that Cinder apparently had no time for Vamp, but had time for other creators. Lady, this is supposed to be your fucking friend. If you actually genuinely cared about her, then you wouldn't have done to her what you did. And I don't blame Vamp for feeling the way she does. Her feelings are very much valid. And Vamp has recently commented about something Shy Lily has said, agreeing with her that both Red and Cinder operate as the same person, which is why they hit the fact they were dating in the first place. That to them, all of this was just business, and that Cinder actually knew everything that was going on. For so many people to get fucked over by a single person who they thought was their friend, who saw them as nothing more than competition she needed to crush when everyone didn't, is just absolutely mind-blowing. I don't even think there has been as big of a blow-up within any community as this situation is. Okay, you could argue the crap with Illuminati is a pretty good example, but I think this is worse due to the colossal ripple effect this has had. And you wanna know what makes it worse? You wanna know what makes this entire situation that much more fucked up? Is that we're not even halfway through it! If this were described in a way you would the gravitational effects of a black hole, if Nano's segment was us moving up to the accretion disk, then Vamps is us edging further and further towards its event horizon. And once we've crossed the next chapter, there won't be any going back after this. Running turning back to Nano's Google Doc, one of the names that got brought up a fair number of times was Bao the Whale, and she too made her own Google Doc, which was shown in the last chapter, in which she does a hell of a job not only clearing her name of red slander, but also confirming everything Nano brought up in her doc. And she also states that she'll only be addressing the things Nano has made public as well as the messages that mention her directly. However, before she properly starts, she brings up her reason for addressing both Cinder and Red despite the messages largely being done by Redacted. And it's because of these 3 words. We, we're, and our. And as we saw back in Nano's Google Doc, they occur a fuck ton. Bao also mentioned she was close and worked with Cinder firsthand for years, which resulted in Bao knowing how Cinder and Red collaborate together, as well as the extent to which Red operates as Cinder's primary point of contact in regards to projects, both professionally and personally, leaving Bao to believe that everything he was both known about and approved of by Cinder. All of which for Bao, starting on the 2nd of March 2024, where she mentioned doing a Yandere subathon with one of the subathon goals being a live 2D model. In the document, Bao states that the illustrator for a live 2D model was Nanoless, who had finished both the design and base model sketch. But after she had finished it, there was suddenly a weird case of back and forth on whether Nano had either the physical or mental capacity to continue working on it. As she states in her doc, Bao was very sad when she had not only teased the sketch of it on Twitter, but that she had also grown very attached to it, which she had showcased to her friends. She then goes on to state that she mentioned this in a group chat with how devastated she had felt, and that her friends all comforted and supported her. Everyone except Cinder, who was also in said group chat. Not once did she say or comment anything about it. And as Bao later found out, and by later I mean after reading Nano's Google Doc, the reason was because Red and Cinder were trying to deliberately sabotage ongoing commissions as well as blocking other VTubers from working with Nano. Then we get to the same 3 screenshots we saw in Nano's doc, but she goes on to list some pretty major fucking points. Bao even highlighted the key reasons Red had for why Nano should cancel her commission for her, but also mentioned that all of this was going down while they were collaborating with her and pretended to be Bao's friend. And what Bao says next here is very much true. Friends don't do any of this to each other, because if you do, then by the time you've actually finally reached the top, it'll be too late for you to realize that you're the only one up there and you're all alone. Nano then goes on to further prove Red trying to coerce Nano into cancelling on her, and even brings up how excited she was when she brought it up at WeebCon, whatever the fuck that is, we don't have that here, when she and Cinder were doing a concert. And looking at it, that just makes us even fucking worse. Like, they knew how much she was looking forward to the new model, and they still tried to completely fuck her over. Jesus Christ. You know when you're going through a dungeon and shit hits the fan, leaving you covered in the guts of some dead thing you'd rather not inquire about as to what it is, while thinking to yourself that it can't get any worse, only for it to suddenly get exactly that? This is that scenario, but equipped with a score multiplier from Sonic Unleashed. Bao also highlights this comment Red made, with him saying, "I wouldn't offer it for free, maybe half price, if she sought shit lol," leaving her completely baffled as to what it was she did to them exactly to deserve or even warrant this level of vitriol. You know, the more I make this video, the more I'm convinced Red and Cinder have no idea what civility is, as that's exactly what they could have done instead of taking the "I'm gonna be a colossal cunt" approach. If there was anything about Bao they weren't happy with, they could have just talked to her about it. Now we move on to the Bao stole out Boss Rush YouTube editor situation, with the editor in question being known as Kaiser, who was a mutual YouTube channel editor for both her and Cinder. Bao starts his bit by providing this email conversation between herself and Kaiser from 2023, which, as you can see, shows her asking if she could request video edits every now and then from him if he's ever available. He states he'd love to, and they then talk about it over on Discord. Fast forward to March of this year, and Kaiser mentions to both her and her other editors on a call how he was afraid to ask Cinder for a raise after turning down her exclusivity deal, to which Bao and the other editors encourage him to go ahead and take the deal. She also goes on to state that her other editors can corroborate said call topic. So far with everything Bao has shown, it's not exactly doing a whole lot of good for the narrative Red and Cinder are trying to paint, is it? I mean, they tried painting Bao as a thief and a detriment to their business, and yet turns out that that's not even true. If anything, I think the only ones who are a detriment to their business is, well, themselves. And holy fuck, it just gets worse. I'm just gonna leave this up for you all to read in regards to the songs. Like, this is next levels of betrayal and backstabbing. I mean, Christ, the actions of Red and Cinder is so disgusting and despicable, it makes Starscream horrified. Like, holy fuck. And this is someone they call their friend? Sorry, did the definition of friend change from the last time I'd heard it? If this is the new definition, I should start doing that to Haru and Ashtra Kamiya to boost mind numbers. If there is one key element that friendship is built on, it's respect. Hence why you'd never see me fucking over those who mean a lot to me. Least of all Shay. Mainly because her fiancé would crack my skull open like a coconut. This is just straight up disgusting of these two. Especially to take something as serious as this that they knew Bao was going through and weaponize it against her. That's just next level scumbag behavior. Oh, remember when I showed this from the Nano segment of the video? Well, Bao adds more clarity to the situation. The person they are talking about is a guy named Sakramore, who is someone Bao has been working with since 2023. In the screenshot, Red talks with Nano about Sak's tweet stating how he'll no longer be doing freelance and be working solely with Bao, with Red commenting how it reads like a hostage note. That's rich coming from the manipulative asshole who kept trying to guilt-trip Nano into staying with him and Cinder. I'd also like to point out, Sak was actually one of the guys in the 5-hour call with Bao and Kaiser and confirms what Bao said about it, as well as Jun Mitsui, who is Bao's channel manager. You two aren't fucking, are you? We've seen how that ended. Also, in regards to the tweet Red brought up, I actually went to the actual tweet itself, which says it went up on the 16th instead of the 15th. Fucking time zones, I swear to God. And people seemed rather supportive of his new role. Bao also states that Sak asked her if he could go completely exclusive with her and work with her in-house without credit so he could quietly work on his personal projects, to which Bao agreed to. Bao also reiterates that it was Sak's decision to do this. He wasn't forced. He wasn't coerced. He chose to. Bao even provides a screenshot of Sak asking and stating his reasons as to why, which Beppis, whoever the fuck that is like, yeah, okay. Then Bao answers a question she figures some people might be asking, which is, why don't you just settle this privately? To which she gives a very good reason. She only found out about this 48 hours ago! Had she been informed about all of this when this shit was apparently a problem for them, when it actually fucking happened, it could have seriously saved them the trouble. But they didn't even give her the common courtesy to fucking do that! Instead, what they did was use Bao's feelings, thoughts, and her most vulnerable, darkest moments which she shared with people she thought actually cared about her to ruin her chances of getting the same VTuber model as someone she thought was her friend. In fact, she even states as much at the end of her Google Doc. This Google Doc didn't just clear Bao of any wrongdoing, but it further proves just how toxic and hostile Red and Cinder were to everyone they called their friend behind their backs. And you'd think that this would be the end of it. Well, turns out no. Following the Google Docs released by both Nano and Bao, VTuber Spite came out with her story in regards to Cinder. In her 8-page document, she starts by talking about her love and admiration for Nano for coming out about her dealings while stating that artists are the backbone of their entire community. And that very much is the truth. No VTuber would be who they are without these artists who they commission work from. But she then moves on to this screenshot from Nano's original Google Doc, to which Spite confirms that this is about her. Spite also addresses the whole backstory of her character, as well as her labeling herself as a hellhound for a time, which led to her getting harassed and berating comments about her looking similar to Cinder, resulting in Spite switching back to Daughter of Cerberus, mainly to escape the harassment she was getting, which she seriously didn't deserve. Seriously, how many VTubers are out there that resemble cats? How many resemble kitsunes? How many of those VTubers that have another VTuber who shares similarities with their model get all uppity and attack them? None. Because it's stupid. Unless it's a straight up blatant ripoff, no one really cares. And just hearing that Spite went through that legit makes me want to hug her. I have a soft spot for puppies, okay? Leave me alone. Then Spite gets to the whole shtick about Spite unfollowing Cinder and taking her ideas, where she states that when she posted about her 2.0 model back in 2022, that very same day, Cinder posted her 1.0 model, and she also provides this screenshot of both her tweet as well as Cinder's. And you can clearly tell Cinder's tweet went up the same day Spite said she'd be debuting her 2.0 model. Spite then states that leading up to this, she had no clue who the hell Cinder even was, nor that she had fire in her ears or was another hellhound. She then states that she never stole Cinder's ideas and that all she wanted to do was to be unique in her own way, while simultaneously calling the claims of Spite stealing from Cinder uncalled for and completely baseless. Spite thought the date of her debut seemed off, but chalked up to it just being a coincidence, thinking that these things happen. only it ended up not being a one-time thing, and she goes on to state that whenever she would do something, either that same day or shortly after, she'd be made aware or discovered later that something similar would be posted by Cinder, which left her feeling like she was being watched. If you're the daughter of Cerberus, doesn't that technically mean you're the princess of all hellhounds? Meaning to you, in terms of your lore, that she is but a loyal subject to you? Get daddy to teach you some manners and respect. Seriously, don't fuck with Cerberus. Whenever Spite would make a design for a new outfit, Cinder would then come out with something very similar to it. And yeah, I do have to agree with Spite that VTubers having similarities to each other is rather common. Coming up with an original design isn't exactly the easiest thing to do in this community when the majority of them have already been done. But then Spite highlights something that does require taking a closer look at. How can I copy something that was released/teased/revealed after my own? Spite then states that on July 2022, she worked on a comfy goth girl look with her model mama, Marliv. I'm gonna butcher the fuck out of that name, aren't I? Then, well, Spite says 2 weeks, but unless the month of August took a holiday that year in the Bahamas, it's pretty clear that Cinder came out with her comfy goth girl look about 2 months later. However, I will admit that that's just me being pedantic and nitpicky. Plus, that doesn't take away from Spite's claims that it does show that Spite came out with the idea first and then Cinder released her look. However, that apparently didn't stop people from calling Spite an off-brand Cinder and leaving all those negative comments about her, despite her concept idea coming out before Cinders. You know, at times like this, I wish the powers of the Orichalcos were real, because I'd love to track every last one of these people down and seal their souls away for all eternity for that crap. One of the main reasons I'm even making this video to begin with is because Cinder's actions make her come off as an utter bully. And I fucking detest bullies. They're the type of people I'd love to enter a shadow game with and banish to the deepest depths of the shadow realm. Now, I'm gonna skip a small bit in Spite's talk, but that's mainly because I know fuck all about Uwu Market and have no idea what it is. Yes, I know, I'm an uncultured swine and bastard. Now let's get to the goddess outfits. On April 29th, 2024, Spite designed a Greek goddess outfit which she thought fit given the lore of her character. Not only do I concur, but I also want to play with your ears. Look, when it comes to anime girls, my top 2 weaknesses are kitsunes and nekos. It's not my bloody fault. I'm blaming cute animals like cats, puppies, and foxes. It's their fault. I'm gonna go sulk in the corner. After I'm finished here. Spite then says that Cinder then released her Heaven Okami-inspired outfit on the 16th of December that same year. Sorry, who's copying who again? When you see when Cinder came out with her looks and designs, and then compare it to Spite's, it's pretty fucking obvious who the real copier is, and it's not the fluffy pup rocking flames of blue. But seeing this did get to her, as all she wanted was to have an identity of her own. Here's a question, why didn't you complain to Daddy Cerberus and have him deal with her? I mean, no hellhound in their right mind would fuck with a big, vicious, 3-headed dog. Hell, no mortal in their right mind would fuck with a big, vicious, 3-headed dog. Spite then goes on to say that on the 20th of April 2024, she came up with a new model from her model mama, REVT. The fuck happened to Marliv? And then Cinder came up with a similar look on the 4th of April this year. And if any of you dumbasses still think Cinder came out with them first, then take another look at the times the designs were released. The kid with Down syndrome at the back of the class reading the Franklin the Turtle book could figure out who's the actual copycat. Now, Spite does go on to say that there are instances where she doesn't have any screenshots, like when it comes to her ASMR stream, where she got so much negative comments and bullying from Cinder's community that she just ended up ignoring it due to the sheer volume of it all. And her not wanting to screenshot any of it honestly sounds pretty valid with how hurtful they were. I wouldn't want to have anything to remind me of that. And Spite shouldn't have gotten any of that shit in the first place. Just wanting a nice happy place to be herself and do her own thing should have been respected. And the brain-dead morons that came at her for copying Cinder Senpai are exactly that. Oh, and you want to know what the real piss take in all of this is? On the 25th of January 2023, Spite received this DM from someone whose name she chose not to disclose that they too had made an OC that had fire in the ears, which then resulted in both Cinder and her fans going after this person and accusing them of stealing Cinder's designs, which was exclusive to her. Spoiler warning, it fucking wasn't. Also, that's fucking rich coming from the lady who did exactly that to Spite. With what Spite shown in her Google Docs, Spite came out with her designs first and then Cinder posted hers, which looked very similar to Spite's every time. And yet Spite was always the one that got bullied and harassed for coming out with the designs months beforehand. This is why having a fanbase of brainless simps is a really bad idea, because they end up having the intelligence of a severely concussed 2-year-old. To whoever this person is, I'm sorry you had to go through that. You, just like everyone else I've brought up, didn't deserve to go through that. But hey, you ended up getting a follow from Spite, so at least that's one positive that came out of this. In her final page, Spite states that she did have suspicions about all of this, but wanted to stay quiet as she didn't want to get into any drama and wanted to keep it away from her, as well as stating that she's seen the backlash given to creators that stand up for themselves even if they are in the right. Spite then goes on to talk about the exact elements that inspired her design, as well as expressing how hurt she felt from all of this, especially when Cinder never even tried reaching out to her. Hold the fuck on! Not once! Are you fucking kidding me? So you're telling me that because you have a certain character design and you see someone having a similar design to yours, that instead of reaching out to them talking about it, you decide to be a bitch and allow your fans to give her shit? Jesus Christ, Cinder, the more we read, the worse you fucking come across. I'll show this last paragraph from Spite's doc for you guys to read. What the actual fuck? Is anyone else getting fucking more and more angry the further we read, or is it just me? And what makes it even fucking worse is that we all know the truth. That Spite didn't steal and copy from Cinder, but the other way around. And yet Spite still received hate. Spite in no way fucking deserved this. Hell, none of the people here deserved what happened. And that's before you realize another VTuber drops their name into this. And a pretty big name, too.
They're playing chess? Oh wait, no. Oh, that's is it mahjong? Oh. Fuck your mahjong! Yay!
Isn't this like the fourth time I'm defending you on my channel? I supported the hashtag I stand with Silver when the shit with Hogwarts Legacy was going down, I further defended you in my video regarding Beacon Me, and I brought it up again in my 2023 end of year video, and now again, here. Yeah, so in Tectone's list of Dark Order, Silver Veil's never came up, and I think because hers came out after his stream. And holy fuck, does this make the whole situation worse. Jesus H. Christ. This feels like a building exploding and causing a massive fire that no matter how hard you try to put out, just ends up combusting more and more. This has to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, VTuber shitstorms to ever hit the internet. I'd also like to point out that Silver states that the only reason she made her Google Doc is for closure and to clarify how all of this affected her on a personal level. Another thing she says is she even debated in making this after Nano asked for her name to be censored in her Google Doc, but... Wait, what? Yeah, it turns out that the person labeled as blank in the screenshots here was Silver. She was who Red told Nano to no longer work with, and then it was her name that was the other blank in this screenshot next to Bao and Cottontail. Oh, I should also point out that when Cottontail found out about this particular screenshot, she was pretty heartbroken. However, now that we know that the other person was Silver Veil, I now end up looking at these two screenshots with a confused expression. On what planet was Cinder ever bigger than Silver? Silver Veil debuted back in 2019, and Cinder debuted 3 years later. I also have no fucking clue how Cinder could get compared to Silver Veil other than the model template, but that would be about it. I also think this shows Cinder to be rather insecure and further exposes her jealousy. Watching how Red and Cinder manipulated Nano into not working with Silver, who she'd been friends with for years, made her fucking livid, as well as heartbroken for seeing her friend get treated like a tool and as a resource for growth instead of being treated as the talented person that Nano is. She even says as much. She also commends Nano's courage for standing up for herself and that she's so proud of her. And she should be. It takes a lot of guts and bravery to stand up to a bully, especially one who's been manipulating you. I don't understand how people could have any ill towards Nano after her document came out though. That bit I'm a bit confused with. When I saw the document and looked at who commented, the only thing I ever saw was people supporting Nano and commending her for coming out with the truth and being brave. That's what I saw. And with added context from both Bao, Spite, and now you, there is no way in hell she's going to get any hate. Well, excluding the odd drooling dipshit who still thinks Cinder can do no wrong. Then we get to Silver's personal interactions with Cinder, where she states not only weren't they friends and that they barely talked, but that she still has no fucking clue what or what she did to deserve the levels of malice and cruelty shown. And you know what? Neither do I. However, Silver does state that she did have a few uncomfortable interactions with Cinder, which resulted in Silver getting the vibe that all she cared about was climbing the social and content ladder to further grow her brand. And from what we've already seen, it seems pretty fucking believable. And I think everything Silver says in this paragraph is just bang on to a T. Now we go to TwitchCon 2023, where Silver was doing a meet and greet, which was the only real time she had any direct action with her. Here's what she said. I had just finished my meet and greet, and as I was wrapping up, she walked directly to the screen to meet me and had someone else take a picture of us together. I was not informed of this picture or asked permission for it, and only knew about it once I saw it on Twitter later on. And here's the screenshot of said photo provided by Silvervale. And the only nice thing I can say is that I genuinely like Cinder's hair. That legit looks cool. Silver then got messaged on Discord by a manager at Mythic inquiring about her and Cinder doing a collab, to which Silver turned down, stating that she prefers not doing collabs, which is fair honestly, and that she was also busy with a lot of IRL stuff coming up. Cinder sent her a friend request which she accepted, and Cinder tried to get her to agree to a collab, to which Silver declined again. And I guess Cinder took that more personally than she should have? And going back here, we now know Silver is who Red was talking about. And after what we've just read from Silver in regards to everything, combined with Silver stating why she's not fond of doing collabs, it puts these two screenshots in question as to what the fuck are you on about, you utter tithole? Silver felt something off about Cinder which didn't sit right with her, but she wasn't outwardly hostile towards her. Silver even stated they barely spoke and that they weren't friends. Yet you decide to act this way and claim she wanted to one-up Cinder, despite already being bigger than her to begin with. Sorry, I don't follow your logic. Probably because it's lacking it. Now for something that genuinely broke Silver's heart, which she still feels upset about to this day. Silver had a new model for her birthday, which was getting worked on by Nano, and Nano then messaged her to say she had to cancel it. Naturally, Silver was devastated, but given what we see as Nano's explanation, it genuinely seemed reasonable enough, and Silver accepted it, even though it was Nano herself who asked to make the model for Silver in the first place. But with these that we read before, now uncensored, we have a better understanding of who it was Red was actually talking about. And rereading these without the censor is literally making me want to call up Emperor Valtor and ask if I can borrow one of his Orichalco seal cards with a dual disc solid visions at the 10,000%. Again, all this simply because Silver didn't want to collab with Cinder? That's all kinds of fucking petty. And it also shows just how fucking spiteful the both of you are. She refused to work with you, so you decide to fuck her over by having Nano cancel on her and try sabotage her career. God, have you ever felt the urge to just punch someone in the face more than looking at this from Red? Because I'd like to do it while holding Mjolnir. And Cinder then sends this message to Silver just before her model got cancelled, like rubbing salt and lemon juice into the wound. Celebrating the fact they share the same art while her and Red were actively working to take the potential for more away from her. She's next with Mjolnir. Silver's final message in the doc mentions her not being sure what it was she exactly did to warrant Cinder and Red trying to sabotage her for years, even though it's pretty fucking obvious why now, as well as addressing the fact that they didn't have a second thought about doing so. Silver, you literally state why a paragraph later. They were spiteful and insecure. And anyone who actually knows you would know that what Cinder and Red was saying is bullshit. With everything that's come out against Cinder, she's going to have one hell of a time trying to defend herself from it all. So Cinder came out with a response to everything. And from how everyone's reacting to it, it may have been for the best if she just hadn't bothered. But since we're here, let's hear her out. So she starts off talking about Red and how he had been her manager since she started making content, as well as confirming that they were indeed in a relationship, which had been going on since before she started any of this. She then states that he is now no longer her manager and will sort out their personal situation privately, as well as that she never intended on making their relationship public, but given that the claims are already out there, which mainly came from Vamp, wanted to show that she's taking this seriously. Cinder also states that because of Red's hyper-business-oriented outlook, her own view and vision got warped of what she should be doing and what was important to her. I mean, let's be real, from the screenshots we've already seen, it does show Red cared more about business than anything else. She also admits that she knows none of this absolves her of anything she's done and went along with, or how she treated people who didn't deserve it. I mean, credit where credit is due, at least she admits that much. But now we get into Cinder talking about those I've already brought up in the previous chapters, starting with Nano. She starts off by saying that Red was the one who primarily dealt with her in DMs in regards to new plans and negotiations, and that she wasn't aware that Red was manipulating her behind the scenes, as whenever she'd come to her about a new project, it seemed willingly and with excitement. Wonder if this was the bub where everyone started calling bullshit. Cinder claims that from her point of view, Nano seemed like she genuinely wanted to work on these things. That bit's probably true, but I have a feeling only to an extent. I do get wanting to work with her more in regards to how good her shit was, but cutting her off from working with other people so she had more time to work on whatever you wanted was 100% selfish and wrong. Which she at least admits. She also admits that while it is true Nano cancelled a bunch of work with others, that there was only one specific creator that did this to instead of a list, although she doesn't specifically state who this creator was. Cinder also states that the claims she was using Nano are wrong and that she thought of her as a friend. She even listed to try accommodating to her schedule if she needed a break, invited her on streams, gave her merch, and even paid out of her own pocket to help her with some of her projects. She then addresses the exclusivity deal and claims that she had zero part in the direct negotiations of it. Nor was she aware that Bao and Cotton were even mentioned in the list, and that if she had known, she'd have put a stop to it, and goes to say that there was only one person she was unfairly pursuing who I think we can deduce to be Silvervale. Though, I could be wrong. It could also be Spite, but let's read on. Oh hey, I was right about it being Silvervale. Cinder states that she was upset a month after the agreement, and does admit to coming off rather guilt-trippy, but also states that she wasn't going to force Nano to do something she wasn't okay with, and that she was legitimately trying to reassure her that Cinder was, in fact, okay with her decision. Cinder was also shocked when she read Nano's Google Doc that Shy Lily had even got brought up at all, and admits that she confided in Red about not hearing her from her like she had, and that she was worried something was wrong, and that Red took it upon himself to go digging for info. Then Cinder says that she was never even aware that Nano had planned on making a model for her friend Jiri, as well as that she condemns what Red said about Bao and DMs, and that him using our and we're in this context is not only abhorrently incorrect, but she also believes he did it to further add credibility to his claims. Cinder does admit that both her and Red were upset after Bao hired their editor, and that she did take it personally when she shouldn't have. However, apparently Red got it in his head that Sak no longer wanted to work with them anymore was Bao's fault, which resulted in him holding a grudge against her. So I'm guessing just reaching out to Bao and just telling her how that made you feel was something that never fucking occurred to you to do? I think here I'm primarily asking that question to Red. Cinder too, of course, but I think mostly Red. Cinder admits that she should have reached out to Bao about this instead of what she actually did, which was sit with her thumb up her ass and let it spiral out of control to the point it's gotten to now, as well as not being sure why he thought this way about her or why he felt it worth sabotaging her over. I have a feeling you literally stated so in your own Google Doc, love. Next, Cinder brings up the "it's just business" screenshots with Nano and tries explaining her thought process. So just before we get there, what page of the Google Doc are we on? 2! Jesus fuck, are we not fucking finished yet? The script is already 17 pages long, and it's bigger than any other fucking commentary video I've made. I've been working on this thing for literal days. Am I working on a video, or am I writing a fucking essay? Cinder starts by further explaining what Ray was talking about in regards to his comments about if everyone had a nano model then they wouldn't be as valued, and says that while she can see where he is coming from, it wasn't possibly the smartest pursuit to make, as she even goes on to compliment Nano on her skill and craft, stating how she'd cheer others using a nano model at their debuts. She then addresses that the "it's just business" was actually in reference to her acceptance of Nano's business decisions, whether it was with her or not to anyone getting their model cancelled. She does admit that she could see how that can come off as manipulative, but that wasn't her intention. After finishing the stuff with Nano, she then addresses the Silvervale shit, where she admits that she was originally Tashi MP3 doing ASMR content, and that it wasn't until 2020 that she wanted to become a VTuber. Why is Google telling me you debuted 2 years later then? She and Red contacted an artist in October with the idea of turning her Tashi persona into a pink and white wolf girl, and I've literally just reread this bit and realized I misread it the first time, as I thought she said Silver debuted that same year. However, Cinder says that after hearing about Silvervale, she had to pivot to a different look before she got called a copy of Silver. But being a copy of Spite was apparently a-okay because, what, she wasn't as big as Silver? Okay, so she did get the same treatment Spite did from Cinder's audience. Silvervale is a kitsune and Cinder is a hellhound. They're not the same thing. Anyway, Cinder talks about her inspiration for the design of her character and how it was Red that came up with the name, including that it was just a coincidence that her name sounded similar to Silver. But apparently being referred to as a copy of Silver, this was where Cinder began to become resentful of her, despite Silver never actually interacting with her directly. She also became insecure not knowing if Silver believed all the things Cinder was getting told or not, and thought she didn't like that Cinder even existed in the same space, which was what resulted in Cinder making Nano no longer work with Silvervale. Cinder does admit that it was wrong and very selfish, but it put her at ease and she felt better, which was why it was a constant topic with Nano. However, she then states that Red pushed for it even more than she did because he saw how it all affected her for years. Cinder does, however, admit that Silver never deserved any of this and that it was her own insecurities to, what it should say, being a moronic dipshit, and that there's no excuse for how unapologetically evil she became towards Silver due to no direct action of her own. Can this be the end now? I want to stop writing. Oh god, there's more. Fuck! Cinder then starts talking. Seriously, why can't you just made a fucking video like a normal person? Cinder then starts talking about the situation with Spite and said she had no involvement or knowledge about Red bringing Spite up to Nano, and states her design sheet as well as her outfit were finished and made public at the start of 2021. And then says she has no idea when she even found out Spite existed. Cinder also states that she was very possessive of her design details and that when Spite came out with a new model that looked like hers, she thought she copied her and complained about it to Red despite having zero evidence. At least she says this line. Cinder then states that she gave the reference sheet for the ripped shirt and shorts to Nano in June of 2022 with the purpose of having a cover-up outfit to keep Twitch happy. She then lists the other points Spite addressed and says she didn't intentionally go out of her way to look deliberately like her, and also states that Spite would never have gotten the hate comments she did over her outfit, or the ones comparing the two, or the ones belittling her because Cinder existed. Cinder also states that she never once advocated for it, given that she received the same thing in regards to Silverveil and people saying she looks like her. Cinder then brings up how Spite brought up another creator who Cinder suspects to have been Neantails, an ASMR artist who posted a Hellhound OC for one of their upcoming ASMR videos, which looks like it was using Cinder as a reference. Cinder admits to overreacting and reaches out to her to apologize. She then starts talking about how when she herself got into ASMR content and how during high school and college she'd always been a shut-in. I literally had to Google that as I wasn't entirely sure what it meant. I legit thought it was another term for introvert. But after uploading her first few audios, her channel got inundated with comments from people wanting to get to know her and... well, she says she got lost in it all, as it was the first time she had so many of them. She then talks about meeting Rain and how she quickly became comfortable talking with him about everything, including divulging grievances about her personal life to him, which she admits probably wasn't smart, despite stating earlier that she was immature and inexperienced at the time. Oh, and admits to cheating on her boyfriend by flirting and sexting with Rain, as well as that she was using him for emotional comfort and sexual fantasies while letting her real-life relationship fall apart because of how dissatisfied she felt with her personal life. This bit hits a bit too close to home for me, as I already stated in my segment on Rain's document with an ex of mine. Being told that she was just using me to make herself feel better genuinely hurt, and seeing this and being reminded really doesn't help make that heal. What the hell am I talking about? Nothing will. Cinder does state, however, that she never used Rain to climb the ladder and is genuinely baffled that that was his takeaway from it, as well as having regrets about it and being lucky to have mended her relationship. Here's hoping you threw his fleshlight in the bin or a wood chipper. The final thing she addresses is Peaches, and this is probably gonna need a count for how many excuses there are in this single paragraph. Already counted 4. Maybe 8. Even brings Red up as one. But despite Cinder making a pit stop at Excuse Central, she does say that she never meant to make Peaches feel forgotten and that she cherished their friendship, being thankful for everything she's done as well as how excited she was to meet her in Paris. Was that at that vegetarian restaurant? Oh, wait, that closed. Never mind. Cinder then goes on saying that she was sorry to everyone she made feel ignored or forgotten and understands the resentment it created. She then gets into apologizing to Nano, Bao, Sack, Cotton, Lily, Silver, Spite, Peaches, and Rain, as well as the Pyropups themselves, which I'm just gonna have up for you to read at your own leisure because I genuinely can't be fucked reading them for you. I'm already on page 19 of this script and feel like I'm 5 pages away from this turning into a thesis on how not to be a friend who's a total prat. So that was Cinder's response / apology to the situation. How'd everyone take it? Well, I'll put it this way. You know when you have that friend who thinks they're the next Chris Tucker of comedy, so they go do a comedy show and flop into a limp stick harder than a teenager watching her granny go skinny dipping at the beach wishing he was blind? Well, take that scenario, take a giant shit on it, and top it off with a slice of pineapple. I am terribly sorry for any mental scarring that image caused. People were not happy with her so-called apology whatsoever. Like, not even slightly. If anything, it just pissed them off more, calling her out for shifting blame to her boyfriend, then faking a breakup, then doing the whole single and in therapy. Wait. She never did that. Oh, I get what you mean now. Never mind, I'm just being an idiot. But people were using this meme to describe the situation, which is actually pretty accurate, but the majority were either angry or disappointed. I think Ellie best described it here, but the top and bottom comments from Megalodon and Astral highlight something else. That there were those that once looked up to her for being their inspiration to be VTubers in the first place and feel hurt and betrayed after all of this coming out. But Jesus Christ, I don't think I've seen so many VTubers come out in disgust over something this fucked up. Hell, some didn't even think this was a real apology due to a lack of any real accountability. Even Shy Lily responded to it and called it bullshit. I don't think she has ever been so angry about something before. People were saying that if Shy Lily is reacting like this about a situation, then you know you fucked up. Probably why her reply tweet ratioed Cinder's actual tweet. Also, Lily with the steel chair? No, Lily with the fucking sledgehammer, quite clearly. Hell, even Tricky called bullshit on Cinder's apology. Even she felt utterly heartbroken from all this, as she thought they had actually bonded. Alicia even came in and asked when the real apology was happening. Honestly, probably not until she's lost literally everything. But I genuinely feel bad for those affected by this, and I even feel bad for those who actually used to look up to her. And all of this came after Gura announced that she'd be graduating from Hollow Live. Anyone else thinking conspiracy? I'm gonna get backlash for this segment. Maybe it's just me being an idiot, and I'll own up to that. But there is a part of me that, after looking at the apology doc, wanted to give the benefit of the doubt, even though she doesn't deserve it. Again, maybe it's just me being an idiot. Well, maybe I have too big a heart. Actually, there is that, which is a bit of a problem. Here's the reasons why I'm not fully comfortable disregarding her apology doc. I want to have hope. Yes, I know, this just cements the fact I'm being an idiot. Just hear me out for a second. The reason I titled this chapter My Personal Thoughts is because while reading this, there were moments where she did admit the shit, even if she did either make excuses or throw Redacted under the bus for it. So I guess basically, the reason for this segment is me quite literally wanting to hold out hope that she genuinely means the apology she made and how bad she felt about it all. Maybe even the parts where she claimed she didn't know Red was doing what he was. Maybe she didn't know. Maybe she genuinely wasn't aware of what Red was doing involving Nano, Bao, Cotton, and Lily. She admits that she should have looked in more closely, but never did anything about it. There is a lot in the Google Doc where she does own up to her own fuck-ups and apologizes for them. Yes, those apologies are usually disguised with more excuses than Arnold Rimmer makes as to why he isn't an officer of the Jupiter Mining Corporation yet, but she did at least bring them up and admit how shitty it was. Don't get me wrong, I'm well aware that with everything, she doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt. And there are legitimately things she can't blame Red for, like with what happened with Peaches. I mean, in regards to that part, she made too many excuses, regardless of how legitimate they were or not. But reading it, while she does admit to fucking up and also provides zero fucking screenshots like Nana, Rain, Bao, Spite, and Silver did, I genuinely wonder if she realizes how badly. The people who genuinely cared about her and valued the friendship they had with her, even if it was one-sided, feel so hurt and betrayed after learning how she really feels. And maybe Cinder did value them and care, but she let her own insecurities cloud her judgment and fuck it all up to the point where, as she even states in her own Google Doc at the end, that there understandably may be no repairing those friendships. Again, I'm aware she doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt. I guess I'm just holding on for hope that there is a slither of humanity inside her that actually realized and is beginning to wake up as to how many people she's not only hurt, but pushed away. And maybe that's what's happening here with Cinder. Maybe that realization is starting to hit like a 200-ton semi smashing you through a reinforced steel and brick wall. Maybe she realizes how colossally she fucked up, and this doc was just a small way of her getting it out there while still having it eat and destroy her from within. Seriously, with my guilt complex, I'd probably cut myself to the point of an intervention in a hospital if I was the one doing it without truly realizing. And I'm not saying she deserves forgiveness. With how badly she's hurt people, that type of forgiveness isn't easy to acquire. It's harder to acquire than getting a VIP ticket to Taylor Swift while working minimum wage. I'm aware I may be stupid and naive, which I'll even admit to, but that doesn't mean I think she deserves to be forgiven. Before Cinder even came out with her so-called apology, people were already making actual apologies to the Pyropups for all of this. Not only that, but some fucked up shit came out as well. Like this Discord group call with what sounds like Cinder having sex from 2 years ago. I'm not fucking joking. Don't believe me? Then click the link in the description for yourself. Guessing she thought she hit mute when she didn't. Feel bad for everyone else who had to hear that. Sounds like something Cinder should have saved for her Fansly account. People were even making video memes using movies from Star Wars to Pirates of the Caribbean. But the betrayal people have felt has been real. Those who once looked up to her, no more. people who bought her merch thrown in the bin. Oh, someone even burnt theirs to ash. Jean even commented talking about how evil she is and how she'll still be around because money, even though it won't be the same after all this, especially with how she not only isolated herself from any future collaborations, but only ever got to where she is now because of those she called her friends. Even bringing up Neon Tails. Oh hey, it's that Neon Tails. Anyway, Neon Tails brings up how they made this video and got this reply by John Silva. What made it worse? Guess who liked that reply? Yup, Cinder. Oh, and John actually replied to this tweet and apologized. But the most heartbreaking is the amount of people coming out who looked up to Cinder. VTuber after VTuber after VTuber after VTuber came out talking about how horrified they all felt reading everything that had come out prior to Cinder's apology. Tectone actually said on stream, as a content creator, you need to treat every DM like one day it'll be public, which is exactly what's happened. And holy cow, it has caused a shitstorm. Cinder even locked her fucking Discord because of everything coming out. And if she's doing that, then that kind of makes everything I was talking about in Chapter 8 null and void then, doesn't it? Alice ended with her own take on the situation, saying how all of this could have been avoided had Nano just said no to the exclusivity deal, as well as breaking down the whole Nano Baby's value thing. Rumorith also did a rough breakdown of the situation. And yeah, Cotton wasn't exactly happy when she saw she was brought up. I've made a lot of videos with these type of scripts before, some of them being over an hour or so long. But I don't think I've ever worked on a script where there has been so much hurt, heartbreak, and betrayal that I can't compile it all. Hell, I created the script on the 27th of April and finished it on the 4th of May, and began recording this segment on the 4th of June. And I can't even blame most of my time being spent at work, as when I do have time to work on this, part of me doesn't want to, because it has no idea how any of this is going to come out. It has no idea on if people are going to like what I have to say, or how I'm being too fair to Cinder when she doesn't even deserve to be heard. And because I don't know how else to say anything, so I just bugger off and watch YouTube. Or maybe I'll have people say I'm only making this video for clout, despite that when this video does eventually come out, the drama probably won't be as big as it was when it started. But if there is one thing that I will never tolerate, it's a bully. And from everything seen from those that were affected the most and worst, that's exactly how Cinder and Redacted come across. And if you're someone who does this to Bao,
like if I just like maybe I just experienced everything differently, or because the alternative was so much worse to imagine. Like you have to understand our friendship and our experiences didn't start and end off online. It went far beyond that.
if this is something you do to her, truthfully, go fuck yourself. Regardless of what my personal thoughts are, that doesn't erase the domino effect that Cinder's actions have caused. If anything, all that's happened is more people have been coming out with their stories, as well as Cinder's social media dropping. Her YouTube channel has lost 40,000 subscribers, her Twitch account has fallen by 40,518, and her Twitter account has lost 21,700 followers, with her no longer following 5 people. I can only guess with how her NSFW account and Fansly are doing. But the drops are still happening. People are still bringing up her apology, as well as calling it lame, like Lily On, who then had to address the death threat she was getting in DMs with people telling her she deserves to get graped, we all know what she means, simply for saying how she will no longer be following anyone who still follows Cinder. And honestly, she's well within her right to do that. And to anyone sending that shit to Lillian, how about you pull your head out of each other's asses so you no longer look like a fucked up human centipede, and take a look at everything clearly, and then realize what you said to Lillian was disgusting and wrong, and that you should be ashamed of yourselves. If you don't like what you said, fine. But there's always a line, and saying that type of shit is crossing it. In fact, I don't even think Cinder would condone that, which is kind of funny considering what we've just seen. But what's happened has created a huge divide, with some saying that VTubers aren't your friends and others countering with their own experiences. Minori-kun sums it up pretty well and lists everything Cinder has done from when she started as Tashi MP3. I still remember my MP3 player. It was blue and I somehow got it stuck on repeating the same song and had to manually switch to the next and didn't know how to reverse it. But people feel so bad for the pirate pups that you have people actively adopting them into their own community. Or doing whatever the fuck Nanami is doing here. Probably best we don't ask. But there are still people, Sims, who are still taking Cinder's side and supporting her, acting like she's done nothing wrong despite evidence to the contrary, with one person talking shit about Lily for talking about Cinder on stream after everything came out, with Kitsu asking the genuine question of, are they retarded? I think my reply speaks for itself. Oh, remember Cinder's statement how Red is no longer her manager? Yeah, that ended up getting community noted. Bet that's kinda smart for her, huh? Knowing that not even the community notes are on her side. Huh? Cinder, you might want to get that phone call. It sounds like it could be important. No? Okay. Well, let me tell you a story. Everything you've done, it's all out there now. Manipulating artists to cease working with other creators. Slandering and sabotaging your friends. Using people to further advance your career. Throwing your boyfriend/manager under the bus. All of it. And instead of your friends losing deals, you're the one whose career has begun to crash and burn. These people confided in you and saw you as a friend, and you broke their trust. Actually, no, you didn't break their trust. You threw it like a frisbee at a tornado, wanting to see what would happen, only for it to come back and smash you straight in the face just in time for you to watch everything you built come tumbling down. Hear that phone ring? What happens if you actually answer it this time? Maybe it's your boyfriend telling you that you're on your own. Or maybe it's your sponsor saying they want to go separate ways. Or maybe it's just a telemarketer. I really think you should answer it this time. Whoever it is, you're done fucking people over.
Yeah. Finding out someone who you thought was your friend is completely has been faking it this whole time is insane.
Just to earn the bag and compete with me over a V-Card collab that you rescheduled to be on the exact date your friend needed you to keep an important promise, you actively lied about it to them, instead blaming me for a collab you rescheduled.
Who is very popular in the VTubing scene and really just content creation in general. And she made her own statement about this because based on context, she figured out a lot of these mentions were about her.
The other partner, you know, it's just... when they see you as something so vile, when part of what they want to one-up you about is something they have because of you. That just